get into the awards. There's a ton to talk about here. We're going to start with our big story, and it is the all-conference first team. Here they are, the first teamers. Matty Beniers of Michigan, Ben Myers of Minnesota, both unanimous picks of the panel, which is made up of Big Ten coaches and media members. Georgi Merkulov, Owen Power, Brooke Faber, and Jakub Dobiš rounding out the group. Dobiš, the first team all-conference goalie, is a freshman, which is pretty impressive. What stands out here, Paul?
I mean, the two things that stand out is I think the four Michigan and Minnesota players, you're not surprised that those were names you were expecting before the season. I think the biggest surprise is the Ohio State guys, because they're both freshmen. I mean, you just said it. You have a freshman goalie as the first team all-league. That's impressive. Him and Merkulov were both freshmen, and they were expected, I think, to be solid contributors, obviously hoping for something like this from the coaching staff, but I don't think anyone expected this. I didn't. And I pay attention pretty well. So to see those two names on the list is pretty impressive for Ohio State.
Give people who maybe don't follow Big Ten hockey or college hockey that closely a sense of how often freshmen contribute at that level. I mean, a lot of these guys have played in the minors, right, or played juniors.
Right. Well, I mean, it happens. Obviously, like last year with Beniers and all the Michigan, the super freshmen last year, all then being drafted in the top 5 in the NHL. Those guys were expected to come in. It does happen.
Okay.
But I think with the Ohio State guys, Dobiš was a 5th-round pick of Montreal, so he's on their board. And Georgi Merkulov is a Russian kid. They weren't sure if they could get him in because of the education stuff, transferring in like his high school, all that kind of crazy stuff. But they weren't the high blue chip prospects. So for them to elevate the way they did, to make first team is pretty impressive. The
two unanimous picks, Beniers and Myers, none of that would surprise anyone, right?
No, absolutely not. They lived up to, I mean, they're very actually similar players. The more I watch them is they kind of do it all guys, and they're leaders on their teams. And they were unanimous, and they're both up for Big Ten Player of the Year. So obviously, good stuff.
All right, the suspense builds. We'll reveal the Big Ten Player of the Year in mere moments, but let's give you the second team. Michigan's Brendan Brisson, Minnesota's Matthew Nyes, Notre Dame's Max Ellis up front, defenseman Luke Hughes, Jackson Lacombe, and Michigan's Eric Portillo between the pipes. What stands out there?
You're sensing a theme here in Michigan and Minnesota, right? Max Ellis, a great goal scorer for Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame's thing was they kind of just did it by committee, so it was hard to find guys that were quote-unquote top league players. But I mean, Luke Hughes has been fantastic, and Jackson Lacombe, a guy that started slow, got going as the season went on, and kind of the way Minnesota's season was. They were kind of, a 500 team, win-loss, but they took off late in the season, and Jackson Lacombe was a big reason why.
Let's get into the all-freshman team. 4 of the 6 were named first or second team all-conference, speaking of the great youth in this league this year. In addition to that group, Mackie Samoskevich of Michigan and Ohio State's Mason Lohrei honored by the panel. So an impressive freshman group as well.
Yeah, I mean, the way the league went this year, it was top heavy. The top 4 teams were much higher in points than the bottom 3. So you're seeing all the, reasons why. All the players are coming from Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio State, and Notre Dame, and that's the reason why. They've had success. And you see why Ohio State had a lot of success is they have 3 guys on the all-freshman team. They were picked to be 7th in the league. You get some freshman surprises, and you move up and you finish 4th. We're fighting for first till the last couple weeks.
Let's get into the individual awards. We'll end the suspense. Ben Myers does win Player of the Year. Brock Faber, the Defensive Player of the Year. A couple Gophers there. Dobiš, the Goalie of the Year. And he shares Freshman of the Year honors with Hughes as well. There you see that at the bottom. Bob Motzko of Minnesota, your Big Ten Coach of the Year. Beniers, the scoring champ. So let's break some of this down. A Player of the Year, again, it felt like it was between Beniers and Myers. What stood out about Myers winning it?
For me, I've been watching, he's a junior, so I've been watching him for 3 years, and he's just so consistent. You know what you're getting from him every game. And then the other thing that sticks out is he shows up when the big games are counting. He's gotten multiple point games in the last 4, including playoff games. He came back from the Olympics, flew from China, hadn't skated in 3 or 4 days. The travel, I don't even know how they got there, but they get to Happy Valley. He gets in Friday night and plays Saturday, gets 3 assists, and ended up being a star of the week in the Big Ten. So just nothing seems to bother him. He just kind of goes, and as a junior, they have other leaders with Sammy Walker as a senior captain, but Ben Myers seems to be the guy the straw that stirs that drink.
Yeah.
And he's the Big Ten Player of the Year.
A guy who scored 2 goals in the Olympics, by the way. I think it's really cool that, particularly with Michigan and Minnesota, that these guys got that experience and their teams didn't really suffer without them, which speaks to how good both of those teams are. And something I want to ask Bob Motzko about when we talk to him coming up here later, how his team kind of weathered that storm. But, I mean, those are lifetime, right? I mean, guy scored 2 goals in the Olympics.
He did, and they were some of their top players. Brock Faber, who was on that list, had the most time on ice for his team.
Yeah.
Owen Power was the same for Team Canada. So, yeah, they didn't miss a beat there. And yeah, like you said, I don't know if either team lost a game while all their Olympic guys were gone. So just amazing stuff. Shows the depth.
What about Bob Motzko as the coach of the year? We have talked all year about all the crazy things that happened to Minnesota this year. What does it say about him and his team?
I think, and I mentioned it earlier, is they were a team that was kind of, first of all, they have one of, if not the hardest schedule in the country. Their non-conference schedule is brutal, playing North Dakota, St. Cloud, Minnesota's with all top 5, 7 teams. So that's why their record early on, they were 15-11 at one point. But then they ripped off their last 9, and that had one with a goalie their goalie left, Jack LaFontaine, we talked about.
Yes.
Our first time in, it was like, he goes, and then, they're losing all these players. How are they going to survive? Well, they survived. They won all their games after that. So I think his demeanor with his players, he gets, and he's a great recruiter. You see the players they have is ridiculous. But I think what put him over the top is overcoming that. The goaltending situation, I think he handled it really well. He didn't, at least to us in the media, everything smooth transition. Clearly, Justin Close looks like he's, the real deal in net enough. And then losing those players, I think, you got to give the other players credit, but also Motzko putting the right combinations. He put a freshman line together that was really good for a couple weeks. So I think, Minnesota battled some adversity, and look where they are now. They're won the league and fighting for the playoff championship now.
We talked a little bit about Dobish, but I want you to just expand on that if you could. Mention, again, he played some minor league hockey, right?
Like he's played in North America, a couple of years. So he was prepared that way.
Right.
No, but I mean, you don't know a lot of the times how these freshmen are going to react. I just think he's so big. He plays the puck well. He comes out of his net. He's a very confident guy. When we talked to him, just his confidence was just beaming off the screen. And, his teammates love him. They talk about how hard it is to score on him in practice. So all those things, for a young guy to come in and do that, he played every game in conference play, all 24. Him and Portillo were the only 2 to do that. And he elevated them. I think goaltending in hockey is crazy like that. If you feel like your guy is the best or he can do this, it gives everybody else on the team confidence to do a better job in front of him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially his defense. And I think he was able to do that. And a young guy to consistently do it. At the end of the year, I don't say he struggled. I think the team struggled a little bit at the end. I mean, they were 2 weeks away. They were right there. They were first place in the league. And then they lost their last 4 to 2 really good teams in Minnesota and Michigan. But, man, he was so good. And, I hope he comes back. Obviously, who knows what happens in this world. But he really put the Buckeyes back. He stabilized them because they struggled last year with a lot of things. And to get them to be fighting for the Big Ten championship after being picked to finish last, huge part of that.
You mentioned Faber leading the U.S. in ice time in the Olympics. So amazing story there. He wins Defenseman of the Year. What makes him so good?
What's interesting with that, because it's quote unquote defensive player of the year.
Player,
and I even messed with that because I said he's not, he doesn't score a lot of points. So it just shows how good of a player he is in an all-around game. Like, he's the type of guy that will settle things down. If things are getting crazy in your zone, like the other team is putting a ton of pressure on you, he's a guy that get the puck to him. He'll make the right decision with it. He'll put it up off the glass to get it out, or he'll just make that nice, calm, easy pass to get your team going up the ice. He only had 2 goals and 10 assists. But everyone picks him. He's first team all-league, as opposed to a guy like Luke Hughes who had 17 goals. I think it just shows the respect that everyone has. And I remember hearing Matty Beniers playing a Team USA with him in a practice, and he was mic'd up, and he said, "Man, I hate go against Brock." And I think it's like, and Matty Beniers, you're going to see, is the leading scorer in the league.
Yes.
But that just goes to show how tough of a player he is to go against. So I think it's definitely more of his defensive play and just his overall instincts. He's not a huge guy, but he really does. He can control a game with his defensive play.
We've raved a lot about Dobish, and with good reason, but Luke Hughes shares Big Ten Freshman of the Year honors with him. A kid really highly touted, and we know the bloodlines. His brother plays for the Devils, is an NHL All-Star.
Yep.
Luke Hughes, give us a sense of what's next for him.
The sky's the limit with him. I mean, he's got his two brothers were both high NHL picks. His brother Quinn is in Vancouver. But I think the biggest thing that stood out for me is when Owen Power left for the Olympics, everyone was kind of like, okay, they do have some depth there, and you knew that Luke was going to get a lot of his minutes. First power play unit, all that. Well, you thought, okay, if he can kind of live up to Owen Powers, which is like, is he going to be able to do that? Well, he actually exceeded it because he's just started scoring all these goals. Like I said, 17 goals for a freshman defenseman, and he got a chunk of those while Owen was gone. And he's kind of elevated. You saw it last weekend on their first power play when they had a 5-on-3. He was out there instead of Owen Power. And you can't blame him. I mean, 17 goals. If he's more of a goal-scoring threat now, you put him out there. So he's fun to watch. He's a bigger guy than his brothers. That's why I think his ceiling is a little higher. Quinn and Jack are like 5'10". Luke is 6'2". So I think his frame is going to elevate him. But him and Jakub Dobish to be, not just all freshman team, they're all league. Dobish first team, Hughes second, shows that they weren't just, freshmen of the year. They were up near the top of the league in general.
You were talking about Hughes as a goal scorer. Beniers wins the scoring title, but I know you believe he is more than just a scorer.
Oh, yeah, and I think anybody that watches him, I mean, what made him the second pick in the draft is his overall game. I've said this a bunch of times. For me, his comp over the last of a player in the NHL success is Jonathan Toews, and that's not a bad one to have, right?
That's pretty good.
And I actually think maybe Beniers' scoring prowess could be have a better ceiling maybe than Toews, although Toews had a couple goals last week. But his power play goal, he had over 10 power play goals. He does everything. His face-offs are okay. I think he says. I think Thomas Bordeleau says I've been working with him, trying to get him better at that. But he's a guy that works. He's a sophomore assistant captain on a team that's got some older leaders. So he shows his leadership too. So he put the points with all the other. He plays 4-on-4. He plays penalty kill. He does all the good things. But to lead the league in scoring with all the guys that they have in the league is pretty good stuff. And he missed four games, maybe he didn't miss any World Juniors, but he missed the 4 during the Olympics. So he still was a scoring champion without missing some games.
Cappy, great stuff. Looking forward to the championship game this weekend, and then the road to the Frozen Four. As well.
It's Minnesota, Michigan should be number 1 seeds, and they're going to play this weekend. I think we're gonna be back in here Friday. We'll get a little deeper into that, so that'll be fun. But yes, this weekend especially, we're getting the 2 teams that I think everyone wanted to see at the end. I think Mariucci's going to be rocking on Saturday night, so I can't wait.
It is a huge week for Big Ten hockey. The conference tournament championship comes your way this Saturday. Number 1 seed Minnesota hosts number 2 Michigan. You can catch every minute of the action here on the Big Ten Network. The night starts with a half-hour pregame show at 7:30 Eastern, followed by the game at 8. Then stick around for reaction on the postgame show, all Saturday only on the Big Ten Network. In case you're just joining us or in case you just have a really bad memory, Minnesota coach Bob Motzko named the Big Ten Coach of the Year. It is the second time he has won this award in the past 3 seasons. Motzko led the Gophers to the Big Ten regular season title in addition to a berth, as you saw, in Saturday's championship game. And Bob Motzko is today's big interview. He joins us now from Minneapolis. Coach, congratulations, first of all. What are you most proud of in terms of how this season played out for your team?
Well, the players right now, and it's the truth. This group has been, and my staff. I mean, I'm surrounded by a terrific group of staff, from coaches to support staff. But we've had a lot happen to us this year, and our players, we'll always use words like resilient and next man up and all these, but our guys just rolled with any punch that got thrown at them. They just roll with it and kept going. And, I'm a little superstitious that we're talking about it now because we still got the most important games of the year coming up. But it's just been an excellent group of young men to be around, work ethic every day, not fazed by anything, just kept getting better. And you just count your blessing when you got seasons like this with leadership like this and a group of kids like we have.
I hear you, Coach, on the fact that the biggest games are still in front of you. How do you balance that? I mean, look, it's amazing to win the Big Ten regular season because it's over such a long period of time that you have to have sustained success. It's incredible to be in the conference tournament championship game, and I know you want to win that. What's the balancing act between celebrating those moments because they are significant achievements, but also looking ahead to, I know, the ultimate goal, which is winning a national championship?
Yeah, well, I think the good thing for us is we went through this a year ago where, we won the playoff championship, and I call it the pageantry type. We go through a lot of emotional things in college sports at the end, from senior night to the last game in your building, regular season title, playoff title, NCAA, and your guys sometimes have to live through it and have that experience. And I believe that's what, I hope that's what we've got going on our side. We've got a group of guys that lived through it a year ago, the high of winning the playoff championship and then turning around, getting the NCAA tournament, and played very well in one game and then ran into a really hot Mankato team and didn't get it done. So we got to draw on our experience. We're sure excited about the fact that we won the league title, but we've got to park that. And now we've got a chance at another title with one heck of a game coming up this week, obviously with Michigan. And then you turn around, you go to the tournament, and you just got to have your guys grounded, that it's just one step, each step up the ladder right now. And our leadership, I think, is very poised to what's in front of us.
Coach, we've talked about it a fair amount here on this show, but I think we have a lot of people who are maybe more basketball fans this time of year watching the show. So for those who don't follow hockey closely, I am blown away by your goalie story. That Jack LaFontaine left for the NHL in the middle of the season, and yet you guys did not miss a beat. Tell people how you found out he was leaving and kind of what happened from there.
Well, there's so many stories in there. One, first you got to start. Jack LaFontaine was a great goalie for us and a great student athlete, and the Richter Award winner a year ago, All-American, and the backbone of our team. And for whatever played down in his world, and his family, the best decision for him at that point was to go professional and leave. And it was, we found out on a Sunday morning, and it was over in like 3 minutes. I think it was played like an injury. We didn't build it up here. We just had to, no one else cared. Our next opponent didn't care what was happening with us. But the great story here is, and this is the one thing that the longer you're in this business, it ceases to amaze you, are these student athletes. And then you turn to Justin Close, who, really had only had mop-up time, but is an incredible human being. And every guy in our locker room is battling for this guy. And we knew he was a good goalie. Did we know this was going to happen? Absolutely. But he has proved it now that this kid is a rock for us in net and has solidified things for us. And it couldn't happen to a better young man. And our guys are excited for him, and they're battling for him, and we're in great hands right now. And that's just what student athletes do. That's what these kids do. When it's their turn called, if they're ready for it, great things can happen. And we're seeing one of the incredible sports stories, in my time with what Justin Close is doing.
It's amazing. He has been on fire here, a guy who played in 4 games in 2.5 years and now has emerged as one of the top goalies in college hockey. So I think that's part of the reason when we talk about kind of what made this season significant for you guys, that was part of it. The other thing was that you really didn't miss a beat with your Olympians. I mean, you had 3 guys go to Beijing. You played 5 games without him. You went 5-0. How were you able to overcome the loss of world-class players?
We got good depth and great leadership inside our locker room. You don't know what's going to happen, but certain guys, had to pick up those minutes. We kind of saw it a year ago when we lost 3 defensemen to the World Juniors, and had 4 road games, and we won all 4 at Michigan State and Michigan. And Michigan also lost some players, and this year it's the same thing. Other guys picked up. I mean, you start with Sammy Walker and McLaughlin. They just picked up the slack of what Nyes and Myers had been doing, because we had 2 lines that were battling all season, but you lose Myers and Nyes to the Olympics, and Faber, Walker, McLaughlin just kind of said, "We got this," and they were just outstanding with a host of other guys. And at the same time, our young freshmen really started to emerge, and we knew they were going to come. They came at different spurts. With 5 young freshmen in our lineup, but they are tremendous players. All 5 of them made huge impacts on our season. And I'm kind of skipping some guys in between there, but that's kind of been the story of our tale, waiting for some of our young guys to catch up because college hockey is such a grind with our returning players. And it just all came together for us at the right time.
What do you think the Olympians gained from that experience, Coach?
Well, I think just a life experience to think the rest of their life they're going to say they played on they're part of an Olympics and played on the U.S. Olympic team. From everything we were hearing, that they really were a close team. They had a tremendous tournament, obviously with 1 game that they would love back, and that's that they would like back. But just a wonderful experience to represent USA on such a stage, on a world stage like that. And they did it, the coaching staff and the players did a terrific job. And we all were following it in heartbroken on that loss in the quarterfinal game that, goes to a doggone shootout. But they've got a lot to be proud of for what they accomplished and what they put together. And I know all USA Hockey was behind them.
In addition to your award today, Ben Myers named Big Ten Player of the Year. What makes Ben so special?
He's just, I've said recently, he's like a piston. I mean, his work ethic and his physical strength, his skating ability and how he competes, it never changes. It is, and that's something that all athletes, you hope that that's what they, he makes players around him better, and that's what they can take from him is his compete level in practice and games. It never wavers. And that is such a special quality for this young man. And he's having, he battled an injury early in the year that he had to play through. His points would be a lot higher now if he wouldn't have battled about 3 or 4 weeks at the start of the year. But he's just been a terrific player for us.
Finally, Coach, I want to ask you about the championship game coming up this weekend. You've split the season series with Michigan. Now it all comes down to this game, as I said, Saturday night in primetime here on the Big Ten Network. What's it going to take to beat the Wolverines?
Well, you can't make mistakes. That's probably the most dangerous team you're going to see in college hockey. When you make mistakes, they make you pay for it. We've played 4 times, and you're right. It's been a split, and all the games have, kind of had a little of everything. But both teams are playing excellent right now. Both teams are excited for their runs. I believe we're going to have another great crowd here this weekend. I know we set a record last weekend for a Big Ten attendance in a playoff game, and things are heating up again this week. So I just think it's going to be a tremendous game against 2 great hockey teams, and as they both prepare to play the NCAA tournament, it's going to be a lot of fun for our players and all fans in Big Ten.
Big Ten Coach of the Year, Bob Motzko. Coach, congratulations. Thanks for your time, and best of luck this weekend.
All right. Thanks so much for having us on.